Welcome to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. I'm Jen Gauet, your fearless host, entrepreneur, investor, and business strategist. Why are we here? Because I believe that iron sharpens iron. And when we bring successful entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and investors to talk about what's working in business and maybe some of what's not, we're all able to learn and grow. As a result, our businesses grow, and the impact of that impacts not only ourselves, our team members and their families, but also our communities and our world. We are going to take a deep dive into that exact ripple effect today with today's guest. Why? Because we're going to talk about startups. She has recently started up a company serving in the educational space, at-risk youth, particularly the foster population, which is already a challenge in today's challenging startup world. We're going to talk about how she took that through growth phase and into scale. So you're going to see it here, hear it from her, learn from her. Today I'm excited to welcome to the studio Loni Lebanoff of Cognitutor. Welcome.
Hi, good to be here.
So Loni, you identified a need in the marketplace. Talk to me about how you found the problem that Cognitutor is solving.
It's actually a crazy story. So I was not looking for business. I was not looking for education. And so what happened is after graduating 3 years of neuroscience research, specifically in learning, I ended up with a random student. Her name was Sarah, and she came to me. We have our state test in Florida, that's where I'm based, is where she was not able to pass for 7 straight years, and they just keep pushing her forward.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so what happens is she comes to me, we literally meet 6 times, and then she tells me afterwards that she had gotten almost a perfect score on that test. She was only 6 points from a perfect score, which was crazy. I was so proud of her. The thing is, we had never looked at that test. And so what we had gone over is, what do you need in life to really succeed?
And so that just gave me chills, actually, because it's so true. Like we have similar problems here, and not all kids have the same learning style. And when we're dealing with at-risk youth, especially, they maybe have foundational challenges. You know, food, shelter, clothing, and then love, safety, and belonging becomes the next level of, do we feel safe and secure?
They're in survival mode.
And if we're in survival mode, it makes it very challenging for us to actually learn. And you've kind of identified that gap and moved into it. So let's talk about startups. Startups are challenging. Startups have a very high failure rate. I am in that space. I love startups because I like the challenge, and I've kind of cracked that code a little myself. But talk to me about the unique challenges of a startup in the education space, specifically with at-risk youth.
Yeah, so it's not too hard to get started. You can personally tutor, so you can start with really no money in, and you can find who is the need pretty easily. So it's going to be any students, right? So, but the scaling after that is a little bit more difficult. So you have to then potentially put in those marketing dollars or find, someone who would be able to work with you. And so finding those tutors and the students is a little bit more difficult. So we partner actually B2B. So we took kind of a different approach so that we were a little bit more niche. And then also, because we specifically work with foster youth special needs, that's another niche. So as you go a little bit more niche, you're going to have very specific clients that are looking for you. And so
one of the things we talk about on this show a whole lot, in order to grow a business, in order to scale, we require strategic alliances, strategic partnerships. Without them, it's very hard to achieve very high levels of scale. And one of the hardest things is, how do I pick who I'm going to partner with? How do I find the partners that align in values, that are coachable, trainable, and are going to give the same level of service that I expect? How am I going to replicate that process so that I have solid growth without things slipping through the cracks? So talk to me about How did you identify your business partners? What are the things you looked at, especially in the beginning when you started finding those partners to grow your team? What was that process like for you?
Yeah, I think that I'm so happy you asked this question because the business values are so important. At the different stages, you start to see like what actually is important to me, because there are so many different options. And when it's all coming at you, you have to determine, who am I going to be and who is this business going to be? Because the partners that you deal with, it has to make sense. So what's important to us is, like having those very strong values, like honesty, like we're doing this for the kids, passion for the youth and for education as a whole moving forward. And so it's recognizing this is really what's important to you, and then really just putting it out there. Especially with online, with networking events, you can go and you can really see, this is who I am. You put it out there and you start to recognize, these are who I want to work with and really do life with.
And tutoring is one thing, but tutoring at-risk youth and special needs is a whole different ballgame. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a bit about when we find the right partners from a value standpoint, and maybe they have a skill set, but you've kind of cracked the code on how to really reach in to that life skills and that get them from survival to a point where they can actually thrive and learn. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about, once you identified the partners, what were the unique challenges you faced in your business to get them to be able to have a repeatable quality assurance type program? Because now, spoiler alert, we were going to dive into this next segment, but she's in 21 states. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, and it's all due to the team, right? Us being able to scale to that size, which is incredible. It blows my mind, but it's because having a passionate team who's going to be loyal, who's going to care about the students, and they want to do good in everything that they do, that's really what helps with the scaling. And so identifying those partners and recognizing this is the root problem, mm-hmm. right? When we're looking at education, it's not that you need to learn this specific test. It's if you know and have these skills, you can do anything. And that's what Sarah did, is she worked on time management, reading comprehension, problem solving, and those were the things that were gonna help her on that specific test, but also moving forward. So with those partners and understanding who your client is and the students, that's important, is recognize what do they truly need, and let's make sure we're getting to the root of the problem to produce those results for them.
And they must feel safe and secure in order to take in that foundational skill set. And so I want to liken this to business, right? So many times we as entrepreneurs are awesome at what we do. Listen, I was in sports medicine for 20 years. I am a rock star when it comes to peak human performance and all of those things. But I didn't learn business in medical school. In case you didn't know, they don't teach us that in medical school. I had to learn from the Hard Knocks University, right? Mm-hmm. I had to make mistakes. I had to go hire mentors and coaches and people to do the things to learn what I needed to build that solid foundation. But so many times we just do what we're good at, and we grow this kind of shaky business with not a solid foundation. It's not any different in learning. In learning, mm-hmm. with a solid foundation, they can grow and learn.
Yes.
So how did you take that and apply it to your business so that you were foundationally sound, so that as you grew, you don't have any collapsing of that boat?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So really, when you're looking at growing a business, things like culture, communication. So learning what my style is, what our leadership and our tutor styles and our students, how everybody communicates is everything, right? Mm-hmm. If we're coming at you and I'm saying the thing and we're agreeing, but I'm not saying it in the way where you can receive it, then that's very difficult. So I would say really accept and be excited to be a lifelong learner. That's the number one thing, is there's so much to learn. We always want to keep getting better. And so that not only helps with your team, but it helps you as a person go from here to all the way over there, right? And so I would say lifelong learning, and you have to be able to self-motivate and motivate the kids. So you asked specifically with foster youth or special needs, what are the added challenges? Would be things like motivation for them. If they are in that survival mode, that means that I don't care about college. I don't care about my future, because with those statistics, with these populations, what happens is a lot of times by 18, they either end up in jail or potentially killed. And so giving them the motivation and the confidence to know you can have a different life, that's kind of the very first thing that we work on. And then they see these skills are going to help.
So I'm a coach. And I'm a business coach and strategist, but with a foundation of master transformational coaching. And one of the things that we talk about is, in order for us, we have to meet at the lowest common denominator. Mm-hmm. We have to meet people where they are. And so what I'm hearing is your tutors are meeting these youth where they are and communicating to them where they are and giving them that hope. Really, mm-hmm. what it is it's hope. You're sowing hope, and that's almost that safe adult space. So that they can continue to learn and grow. So how hard is it for someone who's in the tutoring space to learn those coaching skills? Because those are coaching skills mm-hmm. in order to move forward.
Mm-hmm. So I would say first you really have to find the people who care, mm-hmm. right? Because sometimes it's innate where you understand if you truly care about the person, you're gonna get to the root cause because you just want to help them. And sometimes for these kids, what they need is someone to just be there consistently and know they're not going anywhere. Like, I don't sit down with them the first time and say, all right, open your book, let's look at Algebra 1. No, it's like, who are you? What do you care about? What do you want to do? What do you get excited about? Let's help you get there.
So I hear it loud and clear. Start with rapport. This is about building relationships. It has parallels in business. It's how we build our teams. It's how we build our partners. It's how we serve our clients. We are going to take a brief break, but we will be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Power CEO's Truth Behind the Business. I'm Jen Gaudet, your amazing host, and I am here in studio with Loni Lebanoff of Cognitutor. We are talking about what's it like, what are the challenges to a startup, especially in the education space, with the added challenge of working with at-risk youth and special needs. We talked a little bit about how important team is in order to truly grow your business and get to the point where it's replicatable. And we ended the last segment on the importance of really caring. In a service-based industry, you have to care about your clients and get into rapport and meet them where they are so that they're ready, especially in a learning environment, so that they can learn instead of being in the fight for survival. And I want to kind of shift to scale because, Loni, you have been, you started, you grew your business, and now you're in 21 states, and you did that relatively rapidly. And you told me it was all down to team, but I know as someone who has been in multiple industries that there's a lot of systems mm-hmm. and processes that go in. Yes, she said it, folks, systems and processes. And a lot of times technology plays into this in order to have a scalable business mm-hmm. With a sound foundation. Talk to me a little bit about how did you put that into play? What role does technology play in your scale and in your processes? Give me the lowdown.
Yeah, so number one I'm going to start with again is going to be your team. And that has to do with recognizing who you place where too, right? So really look at what people like to do and what are their strengths. Mm-hmm. Because the people who are going to be building the systems are going to need to be very strong problem solvers that understand truly what the problem is. Mm-hmm. And so start with that, and then with the systems, they will be writing the handbooks. The people that they're working with that are truly doing it every single day will also be writing those handbooks so that you do it one time, you never have to think about it again because it's written down. You have it recorded. And yes, technology is important too. I use AI with everything. I ask that my team uses AI with everything because what we're going for is efficiency, right? And so actually one of them that I really like, I'm gonna have to think of the name, Claude. So Claude is really great because you're able to put in different projects. And so with that, you can put in your handbooks and then you can ask it questions that will help create more of your systems, just already understanding everything about your business. And so
it's been really fun. So let's kind of dive into the technology because some entrepreneurs are totally afraid of AI. Mm. Some of us were on the bleeding edge putting AI in 3 years ago, and when it was really clunky, or spent a lot of money to put some of these systems in. Now it's a lot more accessible. They have lower price points for some things, and you can get things accomplished relatively rapidly. So talk to me about your teams, because having the right people in the right seats on the bus is important, and you've identified that according to strengths. But when you add the layer of technology, they might be the right people on the bus for systems, but they're afraid of artificial intelligence. How did you cross that barrier and get team buy-in so that you could have this integrated across all of your functionality?
Right, so that's super important. You have to have the buy-in, otherwise no one's actually going to use it. And so the first thing with that is recognizing team that also wants to live out lifelong learner, right? And so when you have your leadership team believing in that, then when the new stuff comes, you know, it's like they're more excited about it. It's never fun to learn something like that, but what I do is I show them in different ways, this is how you can use it. And so they're slowly able to recognize it, and they start playing with it a little bit. Eventually you learn it, but really you have to get that beginning starting point.
And so as systems evolve and change, because let's talk about technology, it is rapidly evolving, folks. It is rapidly evolving. Things are happening every day. You know, there's a new thing, something else to explore. How do you keep yourself focused with your business strategy and with your growth strategy, and not exploring the shiny object syndrome that's happening in technology right now?
You say that like I haven't been distracted by the shiny object. I have to tell you, you mentioning this is a real problem. You have to stop yourself from always seeing like, oh, this. You have to keep your eye on the goal. And every single time you see this thing, is this going to help with it? And then you have to think, when I implement it, or the time and money it takes to implement it, how long will it take to break even? Because you don't have to implement every single thing that's going to save you time, because something might, you know, only take a couple of weeks, and then it saves you this much time, and it takes 10 years for you to break even. So it's really just kind of always view it through the lens of, this is my goal. Is this going to help me, or is this going to take away from that?
And I'm a coach, and I'm a business strategist, and I work with entrepreneurs all day, every day, and I know people on this show know we're going to give action steps, and I just heard one dropped. And that's know your business strategy, know your goal, and keep focused with your eye on the prize. And when you see these technologies, the question to ask yourself, write it down, folks, is this in alignment and going to get me closer to my goal? What is the ROI in time? And what is the ROI in money? When is that break-even point? Because if you're going to put a ton of resources into a shiny object syndrome, that is not going to return an investment on time and or money in 10 years. It's not worth it, because you are focused on the goal. So always have a decision matrix. We've talked about that in the past, but Loni just shared a really, really good question, and that's, is this going to get me to my goal, and when am I going to see the return on that investment, whether it's a time and a human resource investment, or it is a actual financial capital investment. So thank you for that. I think that's really powerful. We talk about it a lot, and I see it every day. People are challenged, and everybody has the buzzword, I want to scale my business. I want to scale my business.
Yes.
But they don't always have the right systems and processes in place to scale in a way that remains profitable for them, or that keeps the business afloat with cash flow in the business. So talk to me a little bit about how you balance scaling with foundational success.
Yeah, so this is, if a business does not make it through the beginning, the most likely place where it may have trouble is going to be when it's really trying to grow. And so this is a pivotal point to make sure, am I being efficient? How can I be more efficient with our resources, our money, our people's time? You know, and so it's double checking those things, and every single time, you know, going back and thinking, how can I make things better? When you find things, you think through everything. You don't just always think that top layer that you added on each time. And so I would say that's where you really want to look.
And so I talk about with my clients all the time, cut, grow. What needs to be cut
Yes.
as I grow? Because maybe some of the things when I was a solopreneur or a very small micro business with only a couple team members, maybe that was great and profitable. Maybe it was a line of business or a referral partner or whatever that is, worked great then. But now that I'm at this level, they're not keeping up and it's dragging the rest of the down. So what do I need to cut in order to allow me to grow? It's like pruning trees.
Yeah.
Right? You prune trees, you get rid of the things so that the light hits in the best way for the tree to continue to grow. And so what is the biggest challenge that you've had or faced? Talk to me a little about the biggest challenge you faced during growth of your business.
I think it's understanding what my role is and other people's roles. So it goes back to strength, but also as we're each growing, we have to become a different person. What got you here isn't going to get you there, right? And so it's recognizing, hey, I used to help do all these things. Now we have people who are better and spend more time on that now. I don't need to be the one doing that. And so really like trusting your people, having those KPIs in place, and then recognizing this is my new role and this is where I'm going to spend the majority of my time.
And I'm going to just say, letting go, in my experience, and I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, letting go is the hardest thing for an entrepreneur, from startup through growth to scale, because we have to let go more and more and more, and we have to trust more and more and more. And inevitably, we do all things the right way. We're looking at all the things, and there's a team member or a partner or something happens that breaks trust. How do you overcome that break in trust and navigate in order to continue to delegate and grow and let go more?
Yeah, it's truly understanding your people and having that good rapport with them and being able to come to them and communicate when you were expecting to see something different. Maybe it was something I did, right? I didn't communicate it well. So having those communication lines open, having those KPIs set so that you have very specific, this is what we're all looking for. These are the expectations. So being able to do that is going to help you know, okay, like there was a point where in Cognitutor, we had just grown into a couple of states a little bit quickly, and I was not able to sleep anymore because I was like, I don't know if our kids are getting good services. And that's when I really had to put in those lines, really put in the KPIs so that I knew, okay, this many students are doing this. This is how we're doing as a company providing the services.
And I'm going to ask you a very brief question, and the answer can be no or yes, doesn't matter. I have no idea, folks, because I haven't asked her this before, but you're leveraging AI in a lot of ways. Are you leveraging AI also to help you with the human performance part of your teams, like the performance assessments?
We have not, no.
Okay. Would that be something that you would consider leveraging that?
Yeah, it is. I would consider leveraging AI in most parts of my business because if there is a lot of data on it, if other people have done it, I don't need to recreate the wheel in everything, but recognizing what's important and what's not is the difference when utilizing AI and technology.
I love it. And I always say using AI is about getting back to being human. And you have a service-based thing that's very human in nature, dealing with at-risk youth. And so the more you can allow technology to take the tasks away and the things that people don't want to do, the more human your people can be when they're facing clients.
Because they have the time and they're not using that brain power on monotonous things that could be systematized. But you can't systematize the connection that people have, the understanding, really, the trust and feeling that they care. So you want to emphasize that.
Oh, I couldn't have said that any better. You want to make sure you're taking those mundane tasks off of the plate, you leveraging technology, finding those efficiencies so that you can focus your team on doing what they do best, focus you as the entrepreneur on what you do best. We will be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Power CEOs, Truth Behind the Business. I'm super excited to have our AI segment of the day here with our resident expert in all things AI and fellow television host here on Now Media Network. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Badeau.
Hi, Jen. It's great to be here.
So I'm going to just dive right in. We have already talked about AI, what is it? Why do I need it? Where is it going? What is the business landscape? We talked about what do I need to be prepared for from a data and an infrastructure standpoint prior to an integration. Now I want to say, listen, we figured out our business strategy. We know that we want to have, how do we choose the right AI tool and platform for our specific business use case? Talk to me a little bit about how do we align the AI tools and platforms with what we're seeing from a strategy standpoint?
Yeah, and that's a very important, aspect of the business that oftentimes we forget about. It's so easy just to pick a tool. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm gonna, I need to, let my folks, just write papers or technical papers. So of course we're going to use Word. We're not going to use some of those other tools that are out there." It doesn't work that way for AI. One, as I always say, there's no easy button, and two, not every AI, well, actually, no AI will be able to meet everybody's needs. And so you have to do your same processes that you use for any other piece of software, except this time you've got to go a couple layers deeper. You've got to go through your requirements planning first. What do you want the AI to do? How do you want it to interact with your users? How do you want them to use it? How do you want your team to use it? How do you want to get the results, and how are you going to track that? That's going to be the first piece that you have to go through. Then, what technology space is it going to work with? We're used to, I've got seven monitors right now that are up, and I'm using multiple tools together with various AI tools. So what's that experience look like for your users and your customers, and what other tools do you want it to interact with? Because you've got to understand that when AI starts interacting with some of these other tools, there can be some ramifications that come along with that, such as, oh, I didn't want my IP out on the internet just because the AI got a hold of it and decided it was going to go search some things and put it in some different criteria. So you've got to look at it from that aspect as well. Really around the cyber piece and being prepared for that. And then the last piece is, how are you going to gather metrics as you're going through a pilot for your tool set? You cannot just start with one product, especially AI, because in some cases, like ChatGPT or, some of those other large language models that are out there, they will give you very good answers when it comes to certain aspects of a business. But they will not give you every single answer, and oftentimes they could be wrong if you're using it the wrong way. So you've got to make sure that your requirements are in place. You've got to make sure that your users understand how to interact with it and how to interact with your other tools. And then you've got to just make sure that you're using it the right way, so that you can solve the problems that you actually have set out to solve, and not just solve something that really wasn't your primary goal.
I really want to highlight a couple of things, because you have just dropped pure gold. It's understanding what I want it to do. How do I know it will be successful? We talk about that a lot on this show. How do I know that I'll be successful with this new hire? And actually, I want to align this to hiring strategically. We almost
Absolutely.
look at it like we're hiring strategically an AI application, because it's a deeper look. It's not just about what are the skill sets, because AI is going to continually learn and grow with us, and it's an iterative process. So what I'm hearing is we almost have to take the same approach we take to hiring strategic hires, and know what it is we want to achieve, and then ask, how do I know this will be successful? What will I see that will let me know that it is achieving the goals that I set out to achieve? So I think that is so incredibly insightful and completely on point. And that's immediately where my brain went. Maybe we're not looking at a tech integration. We're really looking at hiring. Only the person that's
exactly right.
Is an AI application. So it's kind of
because if you think about it, how your employee is using these tools, they're probably getting advice. They're looking at different perspectives. They're looking at, different technologies. They're looking at different solutions that they haven't used traditionally in the past. And, trying to put all that stuff together is not easy. And, that's why I tell people, if you're going to use a large language model to bolster your business, don't just use one. Why would you use one? Use a couple of them. Pick 3 or 4 that are become your foundation. Good companies, good values. They align with what you're trying to do. The technology is exactly what you want it to be. Sometimes these things go off the rails a little bit, and then other times it's good to have different perspectives, because AI like this is just like people. It's going to give you a snapshot in time of what its quote unquote opinion is. Getting a second opinion is not always a bad thing when it comes to AI, because I can tell you, you can ask 2 different AI models or large language models the exact same question, and you can get very different results. And having a manager pick between those 2, they don't feel very good about that sometimes.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And so as we think about aligning our tools and platforms, you mentioned, for example, large language model, and you also said aligning with our values. And I want to highlight that because we're seeing that unfold in real time with the taking of a company from nonprofit to for-profit and taking it public, and seeing just mass exodus of leaders, of researchers, of key talents because of that shift in values. So talk to me a little bit about, how do we vet AI vendors and companies for credibility and alignment? What should we be looking for? Because if we align with the wrong horse and they're not aligned with our values, that could be damaging to our brand.
Yes, that's exactly right. Because it takes so long to build those, that brand, that it can go away in a mere matter of minutes. And that's scary for a lot of folks. There used to be an old saying in, when I was a government contractor and supporting that space, that nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM. And, you can't say the same thing with AI, because these big companies haven't been around that long. And so how do you look at those basic aspects that you used to be able to hold on to and say, okay, I know that they're doing this all over the world, or I know that they're doing X and they're the brand leader in that. These models change so often. You have one leader on a Friday, somebody else releases a new model, and now they're the leader. And it's changing so rapidly that it's really difficult to be able to do that. And I'm gonna tell people, it's not a technology problem. It is a relationship, and it's a human problem that you have to really understand and overcome. We still align based on human characteristics, not necessarily AI characteristics. And so having a good relationship, going through a pilot with multiple companies, will give you the opportunity to see, if something breaks, how long does it take for them to get it back up? If something is not working like they said was supposed to, well, what kind of support am I going to get from that? And if you get negative answers during your pilot, guess what? Those answers are only going to get worse when you buy a basic license potentially, and you become, number 392 in the queue. So you've got to understand, those human aspects and human elements of support, of technology, of their strategic roadmap, of all of those other things that are out there. That's the only way that you're going to be successful in whatever tool you choose.
I couldn't agree more. And something that I want to ask you, because it's something that gets asked to me all the time. A lot of times companies take me in, pull me in to help them set an AI strategy. And they're like, what vendors for this? And so a lot of that onus is on me to constantly be building relationships, learning what that is. And I just want to highlight, you said pilot with multiple. The reason that Dr. Allen is on this show is because that's exactly how I operate in every aspect of my business. I always pilot a few different, and I go with the best. I call it the horse that wins the race, right? The one that meets all of the needs, takes care of things, is responsive. So that requires you to step back and understand, what do you expect from the companies you're partnering with AI? Because one thing that's assured is, if you go with an application today and they're not updating it regularly, you're going to be behind the times and need to start over from scratch. So we only have a minute left before the break, but can you give me a little bit of what is a warning sign or a red flag, or how do we know that this is somebody who's going to be regularly keeping this updated and up with the times, if you will?
Yeah, the red flag for me has always been what's their strategic roadmap, and if they're not willing to share that with you because they are so protective of it and they don't want their secrets to be out there, that's usually a warning flag for me. Because if somebody's confident in what they're doing and they're sticking to that, that's very easy to find and to provide to you, because that gives you confidence that one, they have stuck to that, they've hit their milestones, and the future looks good. Otherwise, it's a challenge, and I would steer away from them.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And how can people reach out to you to learn more? Folks, he is a television personality in this AI space. I strongly recommend you reach out to Dr. Allen. Where do you want them to reach out?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on my website, allenbadeau.ai. I love emails from that. I get a lot of emails from the show. That's the easiest way to do that. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. And I am definitely not as engaged as you are, Jen, but I have aspirations to do that. But those are the two easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Fantastic. And always plug into his show. That is an excellent resource for you. We do have to take a brief break, but we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Power CEOs, Truth Behind the Business. If you're just tuning in, you're going to want to go to nowmedia.tv, click on shows, go to Power CEOs, and watch the entire show. Why? It has been pure gold. We have talked about what does it take to be a startup, especially in a challenging space, how to build the right team, how to find the right business partners, how to leverage AI and technology so that you're faster, more effective, and more efficient, and really how to choose the right AI for your business that's in alignment with your business strategy, your goals, so you don't get distracted with shiny object syndrome, and so that you can see an ROI on the integrations that you're putting in. And what does that mean? That means that your team is happier, your employees are happier because they're doing more of the thing that they love and less of the task work. They're not having to devote the mental bandwidth to all the mundane tasks and can really focus on being human with your clients, your consumers, with one another. I'm going to bring Loni back, and we are going to talk about something that, Loni, you said early on in today's segment, how important it is to be a lifelong learner. And I share this value. If you're not a lifelong learner, I don't do business with you, because I am a lifelong learner. And that's one of my core values. That zero-based thinking keeps us curious and growing, and it helps us as leaders, and it helps us to identify real problems and solve big world problems. Talk to me about how you are able to continually learn and grow as an entrepreneur, and then how we facilitate that within our teams.
Awesome. So what I recognize first and foremost about being a lifelong learner is if you're lifelong learning, you're always getting better. That means you have no ceiling. You can just go to the moon. You can keep going. And so that's the first thing that I would say. So 2 quick tips that I would suggest. SMART goals. You can look them up. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timeline. So make sure you have specifically, what am I trying to get and by when? You're much more likely to hit the target if you know where it is. The second thing I'm gonna say is a 5-minute, just get started, do the thing just for 5 minutes. What I recognize is if I don't feel like doing something, then I'm not gonna be consistent, and that's so important as a leader. And so you need to be there and show up every day. And so just start it, 5 minutes, you'll see you really get started.
I really appreciate that, and you're totally right. One of the things that we talk about with our clients all the time, our consulting and our coaching clients, and even my business partners, I'm like, you need 15 minutes a day to learn.
Yep.
Whether you're reading the journal, whether you're reading a business book, whether you're listening to podcasts, whatever it is, take 15 minutes a day to feed your mind, feed your brain, so you continue to grow, and then take 15 minutes to deep dive and solve and apply it in your business to a problem. And so what I'm hearing from you is the same. But take 5 minutes and just get started so you have that consistency. So folks, action step of the day. You know we're about action steps here. If you're not already doing this, take 5 minutes and just start. Pick something, do something new, stretch outside of your comfort zone, because that's where the growth is. And so it's really challenging, even with lifelong learners, sometimes, especially for high performers. Let's just be real. If we're high performers, we don't like to be bad at anything. But if we pick up for example, the violin, and we've never played the violin before, we're going to stink at it, and it's going to drive us nuts.
Accept it. Fail and fail fast. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about tell me about the biggest mistake that you've made, and how were you able to learn from it? And I call it failing forward, right? Fail big, learn from it, and don't repeat that mistake. So talk to me a little bit about a mistake or a challenge where you had that experience and you were able to learn from it and grow.
So I'm going to talk about two because I've been an overachiever in that too. And so what I would say is with the people and who you hire, that's so important. That saying that you hear all the time, it's a saying for a reason: hire slowly, fire fast, right? So, and also recognize your intuition too, because like you recognize things that you don't necessarily understand logics with. So I've had some mistakes where I hired and it put us back a lot, and those people then have some sort of control of your business, right? It's lost time, but also they may even push you back a little bit too. The second one it goes with that SMART goal I said. There was a time where I didn't have SMART goals and I just knew like I'm trying kind of for this, and I think that put us back a long time, and it's because we didn't know where we were going.
Because you didn't have anything measurable to put it to. And that's actually really common with entrepreneurs. We're big thinkers, we're visionaries. We're trying to solve big problems. So we're like, I am going to solve this problem, but it's so incredibly important to put that SMART goal in and have regular, measurable, attainable steps so you can see, am I making progress to my goal, or do I need to throw this baby out with the bathwater and start over? I think that's really, really valuable. And so talk to me a little bit about how you have fostered this kind of a culture within your team, because you've fostered a team of lifelong learners. You partner with lifelong learners. How have you integrated this with your teams as you've scaled your business?
Yeah. So number one, they need to be able to see this is important to you. Number two, they need to recognize you are doing what you say is actually important, right? They need to see it in you. And so also in our quarterly goals and everywhere, we have our values. And so because of that, they see learning is actually one of them. And so we hire, we fire based on this. It's in our quarterly reviews. It's all over our website. It's in the things that they're looking at. It's in their KPIs, right? So they can't get away from it.
Yeah, and so what you've done is you've got clear communication with measurables that if you're not doing this, so sorry, next. Because you're tutoring, and tutoring is about learning. So if we're not learning, how are we living in integrity and bringing that to our clients? Finally, I'm going to ask you, you've gotten to where you are now doing the things that you've done. How are you going to get to the next level? What does that look like?
So the next level is having those SMART goals, having advisors and mentors who are there and ready, being open to bigger things and really, really pushing myself and letting go more to our team. So we're in 21 states now. We're trying to get into 50 in the next 6 months. And it's saying that goal over and over again to the team so they feel it. So it becomes a part of their daily that this is what we're working towards. And so that's where we're trying to go, and it's there in front of our faces always, and we're passionate, we're excited.
And you spoke about finding the right coaches and mentors and support. How do you determine that? Because that's something, I am one, and I have 7 myself. So I'm a big subscriber to have the right coaches and mentors and people in your corner so that you can achieve that goal. How do you choose that for you?
So number one, I look it up on AI. I ask, what am I supposed to look for? Because it's hard. If they're helping you with something you don't know, how are you going to know if they know more than you in the right stuff? And so it's so hard because these decisions are important. And so after that, what I do is I really interview a lot of people, right? And I see what my goals are, and I see if they have an understanding and they can clearly say, these are the steps that we're going to take. I'm going to go to someone who already has experience in what I'm trying to do because they've done it before. They can help me get there too. This is not new. We don't need to recreate it again.
I think that's so incredibly important. And in my process, I would add one thing. I go with the coach or the mentor who's going to call me out on my own BS.
Yes.
Because so many times they may have gotten there and they may know the things, but then they're they're afraid of if we don't like what they say or whatnot. So I look for that no BS as well. I want you to give me the mirror. Don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me how it is so that I can get better. So
Yes.
I have similar filters as you. I don't actually leverage AI for that because I'm a coach, so I know what to ask, and I've been doing it. I've had coaches and mentors for 30 years now. But, that's experience, right? What I always look at is, are you going to tell me what I don't need to hear? Are you going to tell me something I don't like? And am I going to be awake in the middle of the night thinking about it? Because I'm like, no, you're wrong in the call. And then in the middle of the night, I realize, oh, darn, they were right. And that's when I hire them.
But that's why the learning lifelong is so important, because if you have someone that just hears, like, you're not actually going to learn and take what I say, they might turn into just eventually, okay, I'll just say whatever you want, right? So don't necessarily look for that person who's going to tell you what you want. You don't need to vibe perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want an echo chamber if you're going to grow. It's so incredibly important. Sage advice. And so, unfortunately, all good things come to an end, including this show. Loni, how can people reach out to you if they would like to connect with you, learn more about what you're doing? Maybe they have somebody who can get you into some of these other states that you're looking to grow into to serve more youth. How can people reach out to you?
So if you want to be a partner, if you want services, if you want to help more kids get these, go to www.cognitutor, cognitutor.com, and you'll be able to reach us on there. You can also find us on any of the socials.
Fantastic. I highly recommend you reach out. I mean, it's a very amazing problem that you're solving. What you're doing is results driven, which I love personally. And really sage advice today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And you, yes, you, unfortunately, all good things do come to an end, including this show. But the good news is you have action steps. Number 1, be a lifelong learner. Take 5 minutes, do something, learn something, and start that consistent habit today, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Because when we take that action and we consistently take that action, we are able to learn, grow, and swing big doors. We're able to have that forward momentum that's going to grow ourselves, our teams, our business. And it's really important that we do that, because if we're lifelong learners and we're showing that by example, our teams are going to really step up to the plate. Whatever you do, pick one action step that you heard on today's show, put it into action right now, and let's move our businesses powerfully forward, because that's how we impact, that's how we grow. Unfortunately, as we said, things come to an end, but the good news is we'll be here same time, same station next week. So until then, win today, win this week, and I'll see you next time.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.